Hello and welcome out to ARMBAR, the Valley's only wrestling radio podcast here on, well, we're independent now.
YouTube.
Here on YouTube, here on Google, and whatever service we use, and available for download on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Isaac Reese, along with my esteemed co-host,
Tony the Machine Matuk.
Jay the WrestlePedia.
And not on camera, Mike the Biz.
Yeah, producer Mike, there we go.
Yeah.
And director.
That's why they call me Mike the Biz.
You're looking great, Mike. It's the best you've looked.
Thanks.
So how's everybody been this past few weeks?
It's been great, man. We missed you, man. Just it's like, wow, where is Isaac? You're almost like it's almost like asking, where's Waldo?
You might not see him, but at least he's always there.
Yes. He's not faded away and classified himself as obsolete.
But no, it's been a really past few weeks, not just for WWE, but just wrestling as a whole, especially with this whole rumors of buyout, especially coming up for TNA. But we'll go on talk about that later. Tony, your thoughts?
It's been a great week for me. It's been pretty actually full of excitement. I mean, it's been one thing after another this week. A lot of projects going on, working on the house. If you guys see the new ARMBAR room, this is our new hangout spot.
You did a really great job, by the way.
I've been waiting for you to stop by, and finally you made your triumphant return here in the ARMBAR
Arena.
I would call it, the little ARMBAR Arena. There's a lot of memorabilia here. We have the golden era WWE to attitude era to the ruthless aggression. And part of the PG era, but
some of the reality era too.
Yeah, I've been working on this room for like 2-3 days a week just to add something on here, and finally we got the ARMBAR.
It looks impressive.
But yeah, it's been a rough week of excitement. I mean, something going on, one thing after another. But how about you, Mikey? How's everything with you?
I think it's pretty good, right? He's just been working a lot and just trying to keep up with everything WWE and all the rumors going on with Bill Goldberg, the sell of TNA. A lot of good stuff going on in the wrestling world right now. Actually, a lot of things that can change drastically over the next course of the couple months. Actually, so I'm excited to see what happens if TNA does decide to buy out WWE. Or TNA buys out WWE buys out TNA. I'm on camera, so I blanked out.
That sounds like something you hear on kickbait commentaries.
Oh my god! This is why Billy, what's his name from Jim Carino or Steve Carino. This is why I hate Steve Carino. But anyway.
His commentary, you haven't just begun to scratch the surface on.
So I'm excited to see what happens if WWE buys out TNA's video library, because that's something that I would be kind of looking forward to. Because
absolutely,
I only watched TNA the first maybe year that it was in production on Spike TV, and I got kind of just stopped following it after that. But I would love to watch all those great X Division matches. I'd love to see when Kurt Angle came in.
I have to say that maybe their best era has to be before they were on Spike TV, but that's just my personal belief. When they were on FSN.
Yeah,
I remember them being on FSN also.
It was, especially when we were in me and Tony and Mike's case, we were all in college. Some of us had class on Fridays, so
I used to watch on ESPN.
Do you remember when they timed the matches, or how it had a little timer on the
judges? And they scored it too.
Yeah, which is what they're doing now with the Grand Championship, which we'll get into as far as who the inaugural Grand Champion is. But yeah, just going back, and now instead of having to go through my TNA video library, it's now soon to be on the WWE Network for just $9.99 a month. Cheap plug. At the same time, though, it's not only just great to have that video library, but also a better way to promote guys that are now in WWE, like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe.
We'll finally get those documentaries.
And even classic matches involving Sting and others that went through TNA.
Hulk Hogan, Booker T.
Who can forget the classic match of Jeff Hardy versus Sting at Victory Road?
What, that was a match? weren't you living in Orlando when that happened?
I was.
I heard that was worse than Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar.
I had forgotten that pay-per-view was taking place, and then when I found out about what happened, I was like, wow, it's a good thing I did forget about that.
I try to keep it out of my mind. It just crawls back into it, and then just makes me a little more angry every time. But still,
you just want to see it fade away.
Become classified itself as obsolete.
Exactly. But we still have positive memories of TNA.
Very
I got two great matches. I thought were great. It was the Kurt Angle versus AJ Styles match.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was an Iron Man match, but it was one of my favorites. I think think AJ Styles won that match.
Mhm.
And then it was Sting versus Jeff Jarrett for the NWA title.
Yeah, Bound for Glory 2006, the first outside of Orlando pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was a great one.
But my favorite memory of TNA was 3 years ago in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome at Lockdown. You know, an arena that we all know very well.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a lot of synonymous to it, you know, especially with big events, you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
You know, like the Alamo Dome, you know, that big venue in San Antonio that's was the home of the Royal Rumble in '97.
Yeah.
You know, the home of the NBA San Antonio Spurs at one time, you know?
Yeah, why did they move
I don't
arenas
know,
anyway?
man.
I think that was a big mistake on San Antonio's part.
But some
That's just
big's
me, though.
happening at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, you know, on January 29th, you know? Tickets on sale October 14th, you know?
Where's my money, man? Where's my money?
All right, so let's move on to All-Star Extravaganza and Bound for Glory weekend, fellas.
All right,
Yes.
guys. So let's talk about.
Let's get down to business here.
So Ring of Honor had one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. Jay.
It was an awesome event. I was privileged to have my ARMBAR crew with me. I know, Isaac, you were busy. It's okay. But to give Mike some exposure into Ring of Honor, Tony, who's had some Ring of Honor exposure to it on and off, you know, with guys like War Machine and even also some ROH alumni. And I do know that coming out of All-Star Extravaganza, one thing that is guaranteed that if Mike was in charge of commentating for any company, Steve Corino would not be hired. But besides that, though, great show involving not just Ring of Honor, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling being involved. But what stood out was the ladder war with
Ladder War with the Young Bucks versus
the Addiction, Motor City Machine Guns for the Tag Team Championship.
And you know, I have to say this: Christopher Daniels. He's 47 years old. He's still putting on 5-star matches. He's still going strong, willing to take insane bumps, going off the ladder, going through tables. You have to hand it to him because the man his age. You know, a lot of people would say, "Oh, you know, he's done. He should retire." But no, he's probably doing some of the best work of his life right now, and he's still putting on great matches, especially against up-and-comers like the Young Bucks
And veterans like the Motor City Machine Guns.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was the one match I kept selling you guys on for. Well, I know I didn't sell it to you because Isaac, you're familiar with Ring of Honor, but
Mhm.
to those that may watch it or may not be familiar, it's like, dude, if there's one match you got to check out, it's the Ladder War, especially with the history behind it. You know,
my personal favorite being Steen versus Generico.
and then also the others from the past, like Steen and Generico against the American Wolves,
Mm-hmm.
and even the first one with Steen and Generico against the Briscoes that the Age of the Fall debuted, if you remember that one. But yeah, just
That
overall,
was one epic match.
it was. I mean, the crowd was on its feet from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
They moved the announce team to the upper deck because of the dangers of ladder war, which smart move by Nigel McGuinness, the Ring of Honor matchmaker.
Absolutely.
And overall, I mean, I think the highlight was also seeing the Meltzer driver
From the top of the ladder.
through the table on Christopher Daniels. I think that topped.
Daniels took the most punishment. Man.
Yeah, that may have possibly topped Steen's crazy package pile driver years back on Generico.
But, you know, it was something that you just had to see. It was something that because the Young Bucks could have won the match right there, but no, they had to make that statement. They had to make that final statement, you know, putting Christopher Daniels through the ladder, bringing him to the table with the Meltzer driver. And it's something you don't see very often, you know, that final closing mark, you know, that says its feud is over, or pretty much saying, you know, this is the closing point of the match, and we're going to take as much risk as we want just to win it.
And this could have been a match that could have been saved for Final Battle in December, Ring of Honor's version of WrestleMania. But they chose, no, we're going to do it at All-Star Extravaganza. And I'm glad, you know, I was thinking, should I get the event? I mean, it looks great, but, you know, I was kind of going back and forth. And you know what? After Friday, I'm glad I did not miss that event because I would have missed something special. But that was another great match of the event. We had some other great matches involving Jay Lethal and Tetsuya Naito. I'm sure people got to see that match. You know?
You know, I really wasn't too big on Naito whenever he was doing his initial run in New Japan, especially around 2014, 2015. Especially after he got replaced as the main event for Wrestle Kingdom, I believe, 9? Wrestle Kingdom 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, he's just the fact that he's reinventing himself, that he's making himself a lot better as a contender for IWGP Championship, how he's making himself really well known with looking over Navis, how he's just making such a really great character out of himself, you know, disrespect to the title.
Yeah.
The way he's really disrespectful to fans. It's just a really good reinvention, and it's making me really interested in this character.
And recently defeated Michael Elgin for the Intercontinental title in New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And with Naito and Jay Lethal, they put on a great matchup. Could have gone either way. I mean, I was a little taken aback by Naito's pregame assault on, of all people, Bobby Cruz, the ring announcer,
Mm-hmm.
to where I was like, what did Bobby Cruz do for that? But it was overall a great matchup. Was also impressed with Adam Cole and Michael Elgin, the rematch for the Ring of Honor World Title. Maybe not has been as epic as the one from 2 years earlier, the first Ring of Honor traditional pay-per-view best in the world. But Tony, you got to see Michael Elgin for the first time. Your impressions?
Michael Elgin, he actually impressed the heck out of me with the match. He reminded me of a little bit of a Rick Steiner, a little bit of British Bulldog. He had like a mix of 3 or 4 different wrestling legends. I mean, he's very short, stocky, with muscle, and so he also has a little bit of a wrestling style like Taz, classic ECW's Taz. I mean, the way he does, when he pops those hips, when he's executing the belly-to-belly suplex or overhead belly suplex, even the delayed vertical suplex, he actually has a little bit of a style between Taz, Kurt Angle, and the late great British Bulldog.
Yeah.
So, you know, he sure put him over. That was, who did he face again? Adam Cole, right? Yeah. And when he pretty much put him over. He was actually very safe. The way he was actually wrestling very clean, safe. But especially when he was doing the buckle power bombs. I thought he did a better job with the buckle bombs than Seth Rollins would execute, because Seth Rollins has a history of injuring wrestlers in the past.
To some degree,
careers.
Careers. So this guy was clean. He was epic.
Yeah.
Anyway, going on.
All right, let's talk about TNA really quick. Bound for Glory.
This past Sunday, Bound for Glory, the WrestleMania of TNA, but it almost didn't happen. But thankfully, it did.
You had a private investor to fund the event.
Can't thank Dixie Carter for that.
No,
Dixie's
I wouldn't have.
She's not willing to let go of that company for anything.
But yet she realizes that under her reign, it's just going to go nowhere. But thankfully, hey, Billy Corgan found the investor he needed. And ultimately, great show overall. Don't care what Meltzer says. What was the highlight of the night was the great war between the Decay and the Hardys.
I have to say, that wasn't even a wrestling match. It was just a spectacle. It was a spectacle. They made the Decay look like complete horror movie villains. I love the way that they came out to the ring, especially the Broken Hardys.
Yeah. That entrance was so what you would see at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it really was. It was something that, especially with Remy playing the piano.
Yeah.
I thought it was really something. But I believe that the best action was when they went outside of the ring, when you saw little intercuts between.
And we saw the 3 faces of Hardy.
Yeah, you had Hardy bringing out one of his characters from his web series. You had him bringing out Willow, and then you had himself as regular Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was something that was just really insane. My favorite spot of that match has to be when it was Abyss and Matt Hardy outside, and then they ran into that fan with the Jeep.
That was actually pretty good. I mean, I would say they were like, "Oh man, let's go get a beer in the corner store real quick before we get on the camera." But I mean, it was hilarious. It was filmed in Universal Studios. Am I right?
Yeah, Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, it was pretty much like a movie scene. We had all in one. We had live wrestling action with a little bit of a movie scene. The way they had the background, the atmosphere, and then especially Matt Hardy's wife playing the piano. I mean, that was.
And also putting Rosemary through the table midway.
Yeah, that's something that you will not see in WWE.
Yeah, I noticed that the divas, not divas, excuse me, the women,
knockouts.
the knockouts, they're getting more exposure with more damage than the actual WWE women's division. I mean, I haven't seen a table being put through in the WWE women's division.
Not since 2010 with a tables match with Laycool against Beth Phoenix and Natalya.
I think they should start doing that just to bring up more exposure.
Absolutely.
But also another highlight was the induction of Gail Kim into the TNA Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. In my opinion, perhaps the greatest knockouts champion of all time.
Probably one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time.
True. I was even telling Tony how when Gail Kim and Awesome Kong were main eventing Impact years before, I mean, it was long before we started seeing Charlotte and Sasha Banks.
Revolution, as they called it.
Yeah, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong were doing that, as were the Beautiful People, as were Mickie James when she was there, Tara.
And you have to give TNA a lot of credit for doing stuff that a lot of other promotions wouldn't even think of doing at the time. I'd say they were very ahead of their time.
Yeah, I mean, they get crapped on. Sometimes it's deserved. Sometimes, come on, give me a break.
Come on, some ideas you just kind of throw them and, some of them stick.
Yeah.
The reverse battle royal wasn't one of them.
Yeah, or some people still question King of the Mountain for one thing.
Yeah.
But I do like the new Bound for Gold series that they're doing, and your thoughts on the rise of possibly Eli Drake.
I believe that he has a very bright career. ahead of him. I believe that he puts on really solid matches, but I don't know. I'm definitely gonna have to see more of him.
He's very solid on the mic too. I mean, he's got his own talk show, Fact of Life, but ultimately, see how TNA puts it together with another guy that they can consider their own.
Yeah.
And also then crowning the first grand champion, Aaron Rex.
I hate to say this, but I can see why he was released. I think he's kind of bland in the ring. I think he's very kind of bland in the mic. He hasn't found a character yet. And as much as I hate to say it, I think he is honestly best as a supporting role. Not
as the main guy.
Not as the main guy, because he can, I believe that if we give him proper time, we give him proper technique, he does have the possibility to become a really great wrestler, a really great guy. But for right now, what I'm seeing hasn't impressed me. It's just my opinion.
Honestly, I agree. I mean, I hate to say it, Jay, but he didn't look at his best. They just pretty much gave him the grand championship because think about the Wolf guy. What's his name?
Eddie Edwards.
I think he should have been the grand champion. They just gave it to him because
former
WWE character.
But Eddie Edwards at least got something better out of it.
Yeah, he did.
Earlier tonight on Impact Wrestling, huge upset with Lashley, who decided to choose Eddie Edwards' opponent. Well, it's not really a spoiler because it already aired.
Yeah.
Eddie Edwards defeated Bobby Lashley for the world title, and that makes Eddie Edwards now the third man, other than Austin Aries and Samoa Joe, to have held the Ring of Honor and TNA World Championship. Mm-hmm. And those that have done that have usually gone on to bigger and better things.
So Eddie Edwards has a really bright future ahead of him.
Rex needs to work on his persona. I mean,
maybe even trim down because
he looked terrible physically. He had love handles hanging over his trunks. He was not like that in WWE. He was a little bit more trimmer.
Yeah.
Physically.
I just feel like he just has a lot
sloppy.
to prove. He just has a lot to prove to himself, and it's just the fact that he needs to get it up. But let's talk about the World Championship match. Close it out.
With Bobby Lashley in EC3.
I love that opening spear. I love that opening spear.
And at the same time, though, your opinion, do you feel the right guy, walked out as champion Sunday?
No, but it does give a good story for EC3, especially to come up, especially against Eddie Edwards coming up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really good series of matches. It's going to be really entertaining to watch. Maybe might not even be the TNA World Heavyweight Championship anymore. Might be a completely different name coming up.
Yeah, and of course also the debut of Cody and Brandy Rhodes. Great to see them in Impact Wrestling, and soon to be for Cody in Ring of Honor.
All right, guys, let's move on here. Let's go into Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
Raw, okay, guys, and this is Mike the Biz. I'm not on camera again, by the way.
It's the best you look.
There's only really two things that I want to kind of discuss from Raw. First of all, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho's kind of duo-some relationship, okay, and their little mix into the tag team championship run, I guess, basically. So they came out and they basically, Chris Jericho saying, hey, let's be tag partners. We can be the tag champions and the WWE Universal Champion. So I was really surprised to see that. Jericho kind of hinted that he kind of wants in that Universal title picture, not now, but maybe later. And me and Isaac were kind of discussing it before, the show. But it's something that, Jericho needs. I think he needs another title run later on before he finishes his career. And it could happen. Who knows? Any thoughts on that, fellas? That in that little tag match they had with
I honestly believe that Jericho needs one more major run as a world championship, and it's making me sad to think that he's going to have a run as the Universal Champion.
How are you liking his character though?
I really dig it.
How he's kind of just changing things, and he's making me laugh. Yeah.
So far, I think it's some of the best work of his career.
I'm going to start buying scarves. Yeah.
It's really reminding me of his WCW character, where he was a conspiracy victim, or when he was fighting Greenberg. Mm-hmm. He's making things fresh. He's turning chicken shit into chicken salad, and something that's very enjoyable for me, because this is really revitalizing his career for me. Because at first when he came back, I wasn't excited at all. I was like, he's going to come back, he's going to come same cut and dry promos, and then he's just going to put someone over and leave. But no, he's making his character interesting, he's getting victories, and he's making me hope that he goes for a world title run sometime.
He's beating guys like Sami Zayn, and that counts for something, right?
Mm-hmm. I beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania.
He says something about it. It's always something about it. And I like the fact that I like this gimmick a lot better than when he was the champion back in 2010.
Oh yeah, it was like the entrance figure gimmick.
Yeah, he was real serious. Always, this guy, he has a combination of both. Mm-hmm. And he's like quiet, quiet, quiet. and then Ashton Kutcher and
Danny Masterson, yeah.
were there, and I like that little rivalry they had backstage. And,
They made things really entertaining that night. Oh, and just a cheap plug. Jericho was on the Eric Andre show this past week. It was a really hilarious interview.
Really, I got to check it out.
All right, so let's move on to the women's title match. I believe that match probably is what I wouldn't say top SmackDown as a whole, but as far as match quality, it was one of the best matches I've seen in Raw ever since the brand split.
Yeah.
And by far, the women out there know how to do work. They know how to put on really exciting matches, really great matches. And seeing Sasha finally pick up the big one, it's only disappointing that she didn't win it on a major pay-per-view. She didn't win it in Clash of Champions because she wasn't cleared to, be fully 100% to wrestle, especially after she dropped it so soon. But I have to say that it was really exciting to see Sasha pick up the victory right there. And then who knows where they're heading with this, because rumor has it that it's going to be Sasha versus Charlotte inside the cell.
It would be revolutionary, no pun intended, to see a women's Hell in a Cell match. And if you're going to do it, why not the right two women to do it? I mean, I didn't get to see the match, unfortunately. I only had heard about it, but from what I heard, Sasha and Charlotte tore it up, and happy for those two. Even though I will say I'm a SmackDown guy through and through, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. Those two, tore the house down Monday.
That match actually reminded me of shades of Trish Stratus versus Lita.
Yeah.
It was actually, and it was a main event. They main evented that title match around that same era, back in the Ruthless Aggression era, with Trish Stratus versus Lita for the women's title on Raw. That was a main event match.
As was Stephanie McMahon and Lita in 2000.
And Lita, I think, took the title.
Yeah,
that night.
both times.
She did. Can I just say that can we just comment on how great Charlotte's corkscrew moonsault was?
It was. Tony mentioned something to me earlier in the week saying that it would have looked better if it would have contacted more with Sasha.
It should have connected a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it still made it look somewhat
It shows her athleticism, and she was a gymnast. I mean, she's a personal trainer before she got into wrestling.
Some people are saying that Sasha's being exposed because she's on the main roster now. She has to be out there every week, whereas on NXT we only saw her every so often. But I have to disagree here. I think right now she's doing some of her best work in her career ever since NXT. And I feel that the match quality is definitely up there, along with her NXT matches. Jay?
I mean, I would say so. I mean, Sasha, she's now on the main roster every week. She's going to be, appearing regularly, as like you said, instead of more, she's on NXT, once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because they're television consumed as opposed to Raw. But only time will tell. Let's see how Sasha does as the women's champion this time around. Hopefully she can stay away from injuries and maintain a good long reign as champion. Maybe not New Day long, but
I'm getting kind of sick of the New Day.
I was
Thank you.
400 plus titles.
I was sick of New Day last August at SummerSlam, and I'm saying August 2015, not this past August.
But no, rumor has it they're going to break Demolition's record and then drop the titles.
Really?
Yeah, I figured.
Demolition was 480.
So they only have to hold it up until Roadblock.
That's the cool thing about that is Kofi Kingston is one of the main guys to hold the tag titles for so long. Even previously for this title reign, he's held tag championships for so long.
But,
in the past.
It's becoming
man.
It's becoming very stale.
He's
as
only
New Day's
7
champion.
pounds away.
You know who is really disappointing to not see in the cruiserweight division?
Yeah.
Neville.
And Xavier Woods too.
I'm surprised they're not pushing him. Actually, he's on Superstars right now.
They need to push him more. They need to make him more active, or at least give him something to do. Especially, and I'm really not digging the whole Cesaro and Sheamus thing as a tag team.
I don't like.
We talked about it last week, and it could turn into something good, or it could just go down the drain, like we think it probably will. But you never know. I mean, maybe those are the guys that are going to be competing down the line later on.
All right,
who knows?
So let's move on to SmackDown here.
The A Show.
The A Show. Blue.
Team Blue, yes. Yep. We're just let's see. Today we're Thursday. We're just 3 days away from No Mercy, SmackDown's second pay-per-view offering.
Can I just say that the Miz's video promo was the best, one of the best video promos I've ever seen from WWE.
Pretty good humiliation for
God. I
those.
love the editing on that, and I love the film work, and just the way it was presented as a WWE 24. It was. I couldn't stop laughing.
I would watch that just as
I couldn't stop laughing at how good it was.
It will end at No Mercy 2016.
No Mercy.
No, but it's good. I mean, it's a good way to kind of get inside the mind of Dolph Ziggler. I mean, who agrees with there? I mean, and the last week, both their parents were there at the show, etc. And now Miz is trying to get into Dolph Ziggler's head more. It's crazy to me because it's just very uncertain to know who's going to win this match or not because Ziggler might leave.
Yeah, Ziggler's contract is up after No Mercy,
Exactly.
so nobody knows yet. I mean, he's tweeting out, "Oh, you can contact my new booking agent at this and this." So a lot of people are expecting him to go.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't mind, especially if he takes a break for a bit, because let's face it, his character's been a bit stale lately. But this feud is making me care about him, and now I'm going to be sad if he does leave. But
maybe one great talent less if Dolph Ziggler left.
But one thing is that it would truly cement The Miz as like a real heel, because who better to end Dolph Ziggler's career than the man he feuded the most with?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, right now, when it comes to true heels, Miz is like the one that the fans truly dislike.
Because people like Owens, people like Rusev, nobody likes Miz, and he's one of the few heels that actually still generates boos.
Yeah, instead of hey, let's all be cool and cheer the heels, when it's like, dude, come on, their role is to be hated, not to be loved. If they wanted to be loved, they'd be asking Vince, hey, turn us babyface, but I don't see it happening. But the Miz has done his best work to date, especially after the work shoot interview or confrontation he had with Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack.
Yeah, that's when I actually started getting invested in this, because here I was thinking, it's just going to be like another paper champion. They're going to make it transitional. Nobody's going to care. But no, I've been really caring about The Miz ever since. Not just that work sheet, but his match rate, his work rate, especially on SmackDown lately. It's been something that you want to care about.
And hopefully, I mean, it would suck if this Sunday would be the final chapter for Dolph Ziggler in WWE, but if he has to win the Intercontinental title, I'm just hoping, hey, if they put the belt on him, do something with Dolph. Don't just, hey, great story, and then drops the title on SmackDown 2 days later. And let's run with Dolph. Let's give Dolph the chance to show, hey, he can carry the ball or time to move him aside.
All right, moving on here. Let's talk about Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch.
It was originally
a tag match, actually.
Yeah, it was Alexa against Nikki Bella, and also, Carmella was at ringside, and Alexa. Then she had a gift of Alexa thrown right at her by Nikki Bella, and then Becky Lynch comes out. We get a tag match, and now, with Nikki Bella and Alexa Bliss and Carmella getting the victory, especially with the what's that called, the touch of bliss, that spinning moonsault on Becky. Very good match, very good.
And I'm talking smack. Daniel Bryan challenged both of them to have a better match than Sasha versus Charlotte. Yeah. So it's going to be really exciting to see, because I believe Alexa Bliss is very underrated in the ring. But I guess time will tell. And
Becky Lynch, she is just, in my opinion, is to me the one of the most underrated, aside from Alexa. Becky, I mean, I know the talk's more on Sasha, but I just feel Becky's just as valuable, if not maybe a little bit more, because, Becky's been trained by some of the best, like Finn Balor, and, did, for a time live in Japan. And I would just like to see more.
A waitress, too, a bartender waitress in New York, just trying to get money to get into the wrestling industry.
Not sad, but she retired for the first time over 10 years ago.
What?
You didn't know?
She started age.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, she suffered a career-ending injury, or so she thought, until she was inspired to get back in it, and then she went to NXT after that.
And just hopefully we'll see Becky and Bliss, and even the same with Nikki Bella and Carmella. Even though it's been kind of one of those, Carmella was still popular, and yet they did the double turn. Hopefully those two can put on a match that can top what Raw had with Sasha and Charlotte. But only time will tell. And then, of course, also at No Mercy, Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt. What's y'all's take on this?
It's kind of, the build-up's been okay.
It's going to be a squash match, in my opinion.
I mean, it's all hype. It's the fact that I can't take Bray Wyatt seriously, because he hasn't won a single feud that he's been in. They're ruining stock in Bray Wyatt, and I think it's time to give up on the Bray Wyatt experiment myself, because he's just not believable as a threat. He'll come out, he'll be spooky, we're gonna bring out a little ghost.
Did anyone see the mess up that he did on SmackDown, by the way? He messed up the crab walk or whatever he does. He fell, and then he paused, you can tell he almost broke kayfabe or whatever. He was like, oops, I screwed that up, But I thought that was hilarious, and then he's just like, okay, he got back up and he did it, I thought it was funny.
I just don't like the fact that he put over Kane. He should have won that pay-per-view.
He really should have, because it's just the fact that, again, he's not a credible threat. And I don't know if you're going to start building him up. If he gets the win over Orton, maybe it could be the start of something. But right now, I have no reason to
I
care
think
about
Braun
Bray Wyatt.
Strowman is a more credible threat right now than Bray
Well,
Wyatt.
he's not even with the Wyatts anymore.
Dude, he's-
Exactly.
he's a
And
bunch
then-
of jobbers, dude.
Yeah,
Run.
what's the payoff going to be
Run.
after Braun Strowman?
I don't know. I mean, who is?
I'm more excited about the return of Luke Harper.
He's
Yeah,
back from what I heard. He's
yeah.
started to do some dark matches, and he's going to be on Raw from what I read.
Oh,
Yeah,
He's part of
sadly.
the
Yeah.
So him and
Raw.
Strowman might join forces.
or be against each other.
Probably, yeah, one of those.
You know, Braun throws out an open challenge. Out comes Harper.
double big man would be a pretty good matchup. But again, like, I feel that Luke Harper would have a better run as IC champion or something like that.
I would.
Because he's one of the most interesting big men. You know, I would love to see him against. I'm not gonna lie. I would love to see him and Strowman versus the Club with Anderson Gallows.
I could see that.
You know what I don't get though? That Bray Wyatt, he's the leader. They say he's leader of worlds. He's the leader of his faction, the Wyatt family.
And that he's a god.
He's a god, but I don't get it. He hasn't won one title. WWE hasn't given one title to run, but Luke Harper has a title throughout those 4 people. It just doesn't make any
Same
sense.
with
Yeah.
same with Harper and Rowan. They were the NXT Tag Team Champions.
So it's just like, I mean, if you want to make Bray Wyatt credible, let him run with it, give him a win, give him some victories. Because here's the thing, I believe it's just very unfortunate timing, same as, you know, when CM Punk's title reign, because let's face it, you know, he was being upstaged by John fucking Laurinaitis of all people. But
Yeah, we can also swear now on Armbar.
but no, it's the fact that I just believe he has really great feuds. He's really capable of having really great feuds. I just believe it's bad timing because
I think with Bray, they ought to should just trade. You know, when they traded Swagger to SmackDown, I think Bray would benefit more on Raw because there's probably a little bit more they could do with Bray Wyatt. I mean, the one thing that comes to
at
mind,
the same time, who could he feud with?
Finn Balor.
That's true when he comes back.
Yeah, the Demon against the Eater of Worlds would be something I could easily.
But at the same
Be
time,
invested
It's a good match.
but at the same time,
See
it
that.
hurts. You have all this build up, and
Unless they bring in
here's the
as
thing, it
a-
would be a really great feud. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you know who's going to win that feud, and that's the problem. Is that Bray can put on really great feuds, but he's not credible because he's not winning. He's
Or
not
what if-
winning anything.
Like to freshen things up, trade him to Raw, turn him face, have him feud with Kevin Owens.
You know,
I could see that.
I don't see him as a face though.
Who?
But
Bray
most people
Wyatt.
said the same about the
So
Undertaker.
he did it for one night, that tag match.
Yeah, that was a really good example or whatever. But I see him more as just kind of like a lone wolf, or maybe just a tweener, or like a mercenary. And maybe if they change up his gimmick a bit, because this whole like priest and like, you know, the Eater of Worlds gimmick, it's starting to get stale, and he's cutting the same promo every night, and I'm just not into him anymore.
But the way Mike said it, it's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna scare you," you know, and then
Might as well put a clown.
And then he
Put a clown mask on him, it might be scary, you know.
But no, it's just the fact he's not credible. He's not a credible threat, and I really just don't care. I mean, the one feud that he has won against Dean Ambrose got a title shot the next month, and it's just what?
if he was to
And
win the
he
matches,
became world champion.
I mean, if Bray was to win the matches instead of putting talent over or legends over,
And
I think we would take him seriously.
people say, oh, you know, he doesn't need to win matches. You know, he's a credible threat. He's just, you know, he's like Kane. You know, you don't need to win matches to be a threat. He's like, yeah, you do.
yes, you
Yeah,
do.
You
yeah.
need to
Yeah.
win
Do you
to be
know-
a threat.
Do you
otherwise,
know-
what good is putting you out there?
You know, it takes me back to back in the 80s. Jake the Snake Roberts was a big threat, and he's never held a title.
Mhm.
Maybe that's the way Bray wants it to be. Because, you know, Jake Snake Roberts says, you know what, I didn't need a title to know who I
Well,
am.
it's also sad to hear because Bray was one of the biggest guys that Triple H vouched for, and he did say within a year, Bray Wyatt will be WWE champion.
Hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's been over 3 years now.
But yeah, but they give it to Roman Reigns, and they give it to all 3 members of the Shield.
I believe, but I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see what's happening.
They give it to Triple H.
Obviously, he's a 14-time champion now.
Yeah, but some people, I mean, there were those that cheered the fact that Triple H won the title because Roman Reigns wasn't champion anymore.
Mhm.
Aside from that, not many people are like, "Oh my God, Triple H is champion! Yay!" It was more, at least Reigns ain't champion.
Yeah.
That was the response.
Yeah, but he's a mid-card champion now.
Do you remember how big the crowd popped when they thought Ambrose won it?
Yeah, back at Roadblock this past March, but no, we didn't get our way at Roadblock. But thankfully, as the year progressed, we started getting
Yeah.
our way. You
And it
know,
was because, you know, Roman fucked up.
yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about the main event, which is the triple threat: John Cena versus Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles. And AJ Styles is kind of playing the third wheel in this feud.
I gotta say, Cena and Ambrose, man, they tore. Oh, Ambrose tore into Cena big time.
I love the promo wars that they're having.
I do like it, and I think that those two are going to have a big rivalry after.
Honestly, if there's any time to possibly turn Cena heel, it has to be this one, because look at Cena now. He's part-time. He could easily come back as like the Hollywood gimmick, but now it's more like, you know what? Hey,
That's
for 10
mistake.
years, I know, but to the degree, hey, I've for 12 years, busted my ass for you guys, hustle, loyalty, respect, and all I got in the ring.
And then Ambrose just straight up says, it's because, you don't respect me because I don't kiss your ass, I'm out here wrestling every night while you're just playing John Cena.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, with Cena, it's become very stale. It's the same old rah. The matches are good, but it's like the delivery's like.
And then, after somebody cuts a promo, he's nice speech. Or just like clapping them, and then it goes on with his rebuttal. But I have to say, his promos have been fire week in, week out. Cena's, yeah.
Especially on Talking Smack.
I've really been
the same thing.
No. I've really been enjoying like how different his promos have been. How he's not playing, this underdog. Where he's like, no, I'm going to come back in. No, he's coming in and he's pretty much claiming himself as the leader of the locker room. He's pretty much claiming himself. I've been in this for this amount of time, and I have experience. And then he's cutting into Ambrose saying, you couldn't even beat AJ Styles. You couldn't do something, or like, you're complaining and whining about AJ Styles when you're the one who, double crossed him first, or you're the one who torn him first and played dirty first.
Yeah,
and
watched him first.
Yeah, so they're both bringing out really logical arguments to it. But this past promo that Ambrose pulled on Cena,
I mean, Ambrose showed a lot of fire. Like, you know what? Hey, he's not afraid to say, you know what? Look, I'm sorry, but while everyone thinks of Cena as the be all end all, Ambrose is like, I'm sorry, that's not what I believe either.
It's something that I noticed too. Cena didn't respond. He just straight up attacked Ambrose, and that goes to show, he won that promo war. It really reminds me of the time when Daniel Bryan cut that promo on John Cena before SummerSlam, where he called him a parody of a wrestler. And then Cena just responded by slapping Daniel Bryan in the face. He didn't have anything to say to that. So it's going to be really interesting to see going up. It's going to be really interesting to see where these two collide going forward. Maybe match somewhere along the line, Survivor Series, maybe Elimination Chamber. But even then,
that'd be good. Yeah.
What I'm also loving,
he just by saying Elimination Chamber,
Elimination Chamber,
that brought a big smile to Mike's face.
It's not a pay-per-view anymore.
But something that I'm loving,
but you can see it on the WWE Network.
Yeah.
For $9.99.
Something that I'm loving is that AJ Styles is just letting it happen. AJ Styles, he on Talking Smack, he goes off and says, I love the promo he got recently on Talking Smack. It says, everywhere I've been a champion. That's not coincidence. That's me being the best wrestler in the promotion. Whether it be TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, I don't care. I've always been the top draw, and I've always been the top of the card. And
I believe he mentioned the company, either him or Daniel Bryan mentioned the companies by name, which I thought was pretty cool.
Because it gives him legitimacy. Instead of saying, "Oh, you were like a champion somewhere else," no, he was champion for these big promotions, and it goes to show that AJ doesn't really need to say anything to back up his claims. He just has to show his history.
I think honestly, like I said, this would be the perfect time to want to turn Cena heel, because it's time. You know what? I think we finally may have someone, because the one thing people like Jim Ross have said that has kept Cena from being turned heel is, well, who's believable enough on the other side to take that. It's like when we took Hulk Hogan from being the biggest good guy into the biggest bad guy with the NWO.
I think the biggest problem, though, that Vince and Co. may be afraid of is that AJ Styles is almost 40.
But look at Dean Ambrose. He just barely turned 31, 32.
So is John Cena. He's in his late 30s also.
That's true.
But Styles is wrestling like he's still in his 30s. But if there's one person
late 20s.
Okay, fine. But who was believable enough to take on Hogan when Hogan turned heel? Sting. That could be the case with Ambrose, maybe even Styles. Because it's getting to a point where I will always enjoy Cena's matches. Hey, he's done a great job for the WWE community. Not WWE Universe. I'm talking about
Make-A-Wish too.
Yeah, the WWE community in general.
Maybe that's the one of the reasons why he can't turn.
If Stephanie McMahon can play this evil bitch on television,
which I'm hating, but here's the thing. This is the biggest problem I have with Raw is that the Authority and the Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon won't get off the camera. Yeah, they have to be in every segment.
Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, we saw him maybe once every.
Well, actually, if you watched Raw this past week, Foley kind of tried to stay away from it, and Stephanie actually. Yeah, I noticed that.
Regal in NXT, he only shows up when it matters.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan even took a shot at them, saying, "Hey, this is the only time you're going to see me and Shane, unless something really needs to be addressed." And with as I was saying, with Cena, if there's someone that's believable, why not? Ambrose, who could be that particular character, because it's getting to where if Stephanie can play an evil person and yet still do the Make-A-Wishes.
Susan B. Komen.
Why not let Cena? I mean,
which is a scam, by the way. Susan B. Komen, don't support that.
Nikki Bella
No
was
comment.
a bad guy, or a heel, bad girl rather, but very bad girl if you're John Cena. And yet she, is with Cena, who's playing the face. It's like, come on, give the people what they want. If they want to boo Cena, just like you did with the Usos when you started giving them boosos, turn Cena heel. This could be the right time, and I think the right foil could be Dean Ambrose, because he's the guy to say, look,
He's the guy that's replacing him.
Yeah. And he's not hustle, loyalty, respect. He's, hey, this lunatic runs the asylum. Either you're going to survive in it or don't even enter.
I see Dean Ambrose becoming the next Stone Cold, even, especially in levels of popularity.
He needs a little work.
I still see him a lot as a modern-day Terry Funk,
He's a mix, yeah. He's a mix of all three, possibly, in my opinion. What do you think, Tony? Yeah.
As long as Ambrose does not pull a gun on someone like Brian Pillman did 20 years ago.
I'm waiting to buy that dual pack of
Ambrose and Pillman?
Yeah.
They have them at Walmart.
They do. They have quite a bit of them.
But I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to see how AJ plays into this feud, because I imagine he's going to be gone for the match for like maybe about 20 minutes before he comes and steals the win again and cements himself as the champion.
But
because again,
that runs the camp.
I could also see a double turn with Styles and Cena,
possibly.
But
because
that's just me.
It's like Ed said, you don't have to be the biggest; you have to be the smartest.
Yes.
All right, guys, moving on. Let's go over to the Dirt Sheet Roundup, starting off with, guys, it appears that TNA is officially WWE property now.
The TNA video library, let's be clear. Not TNA.
Not the company itself,
the company.
But the name and the video library.
Belong to Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
I wonder how much he purchased for that.
You're fired. It was less than 10 mil.
Fired. I can imagine Nick Smith to Dixie Carter. Dixie Carter, you're fired.
So during the rest of WWE segment sound, they could actually mention TNA on commentary.
They can start. I mean, they started to already.
That's probably why they did it.
Stone Cold had the audacity to mention on the podcast.
Look, to be fair, Stone Cold doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He did it with Vince McMahon. He also did that with AJ Styles.
But at the same time, though, now they're going to have to mention TNA because not just because of ownership. I mean, they for years steered away from it either because of competition or because they were never competition.
They really didn't acknowledge it as much as a competition.
But was Ring of Honor competition? Not really. Yet they still get plugged. Same thing
because they're no threat to them. They're an indie.
And to a degree, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
They do mention that a couple times in Japan
because it's international.
Yeah, it's not. You're not going to see Wrestle Kingdom go head up against WrestleMania.
Because Wrestle Kingdom is by far the biggest event over there in Japan.
Much like WrestleMania here in the States.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, WWE has a much more global reach, unfortunately. But this is big news because not only do we get to see, classic matches and everything, you get to see all of TNA's history. You get to see why I love this promotion so much. You get to see all the great matches, all the great Steiner promos. You get to see all the great
Aces of Eights.
Mm-hmm. We might even get to see the terrible stuff, like the Hogan and Bischoff era.
We might even see Isaac. You were on camera for some of the pay-per-views.
Yeah,
I was on camera for Lockdown 3 years ago. But yeah, just a lot of the great stuff. Not just the terrible stuff. You can weed through that, but
Mafia.
The greatest match in TNA history. Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles from Unbreakable 05. The only match to have gotten a 5-star rating by the Wrestling Observer, as well as also the Ultimate X matches from the very first one with Michael Shane and Chris Sabin, and I believe also Frankie Kazarian.
Yeah.
To some of the the best and worst commentary you can find with Mike Tenay and Don West, Mike Tenay and Taz.
Oh my God, Taz.
To even also some of the other classics, including also. Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle at Lockdown 20.
And terrible classics like Jeff Hardy and Sting at Victory Road.
Yeah, but what about also Kurt Angle and Mr. Anderson in 2010?
That was a great match.
Hell yeah.
That's smart. And then
Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, the Great.
And not just that, but you get to see wrestlers that are still in WWE today or working for WWE come and see their matches over there, like Christian Cage, Ron Killing.
Xavier Woods when he was Consequences Creed.
Even glorious talent like Bobby Roode.
Do you think we'll see someone like CM Punk?
Yes, I'm sure.
CM Punk, he was part of the TNA.
Back in 2004, I believe.
Not just that, but you get to see, the up and coming. You get to see people like Bobby Roode, P.D. Williams, Eric Young, who is now in NXT.
Plus, also one of my favorite NWA TNA feuds. If you remember Jeff Jarrett and Raven in the early years of the Asylum years.
DDP was there too.
Or even Abyss versus Raven in their Monsters Bowl.
I mean, Abyss, he is just so terribly underrated.
Harry Saturn.
I've always said that if WWE ever buys out TNA, not just the video library, but the company, I would love to see Abyss versus Kane in a Mania match.
Or Abyss and Braun Strowman. Or I'd like to see Abyss be the guy to possibly retire Big Show.
What about the Decay versus, let's say, someone like the New Day or the Wyatt family?
That I could see, or even just Broken Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. That's been the most compared match.
Yeah.
How about DK versus DK versus the Wyatts, or DK versus the Gallows and Anderson?
Huh?
Those seem interesting.
That I could see as well. I mean, then also some big money matches.
There would be some big money matches.
Jeff Hardy against Finn Balor.
Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar.
That would finally be a Brock Lesnar match I'd actually want to see.
Especially because Bobby Lashley has improved so much in the ring.
Yes, he has.
And not only, well, speaking of matches with Lesnar, we may or may not want to see. What about the rumors of Goldberg returning to WWE?
I don't care.
I really don't care for this. I think that if it happens, Goldberg's probably going to have to put over Brock Lesnar this time. Because
I don't want to see a man who's in his mid-50s come out and wrestle for less than 5 minutes because he can't go in the ring anymore because he's so jacked up on steroids.
And he hasn't wrestled in 12 years since that debacle of a match at WrestleMania 20. I mean, it's just, I can understand, hey, if it was Kurt Angle, you know, I'd love to see Angle.
I would love to see, you know, Kurt Angle needs to come back home. And I know he wants to, but I just don't think he can keep up the schedule that Vince wants to give him. But
give him the part-time schedule, I'd say. I'd like to see Angle and Brock.
Well, it depends if he's clean.
Yeah, sure.
I know he's had quite a bit of setbacks with his DW.
If I remember, it was a recent interview he had with ESPN where he was saying that at his worst moment, which is, I believe, like 2008, 2007, he was taking up 236 Vicodins a day.
That was, it's crazy.
He was going through so much crap. I mean, if you think about Karen, he was going through that really nasty divorce with.
You know, he has
Karen
really tragic stories, so
Yeah.
it's amazing, you know, how far he's made it.
But I'm glad that, hey, he's around to tell that story as opposed to, you know.
Posthumous Hall of Fame inductee.
Yeah. And, of course, also the production still continuing on the Chris Benoit biopic. They tried to get Michael C. Hall from Dexter fame to play it, but he didn't want to be typecast as a killer. But I would see him as the guy because he kind of did look like Benoit at times on Dexter with the 5 o'clock shadow and the sort of red-orange hair, I guess you could say. If he built up enough muscle, he could be believable. But
it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a movie that's either going to be really, really well done or really, really tasteless.
It's one of those that I'd have to see because, you know, I was one of the biggest Benoit fans out there.
That's actually what caused me to stop watching wrestling for a while, you know, after the whole Benoit tragedy.
And just, I mean, I would just have to be one of those that I got to see it, you know.
All right, and then final bit of news. Impact Wrestling is getting a rebranding under Billy Corgan since WWE only bought the video library and production, but Billy Corgan apparently is now majority owner of the company.
Honestly, if it's outside of Dixie Carter's hands, the better, because Dixie Carter
is an idiot.
She's basically the antithesis of Vince McMahon or a Paul Heyman, even, you know,
Bill
Watts.
They got fired off of Spike. They got kicked off of Spike TV because she refused to fire Vince Russo. She told Spike that, you know, I fired him, and then, you know, being the dumbass that she is, she forwarded an email from Vince Russo to the exec Spike.
Well, Russo's the one that did it, but Dixie had to come clean about it. Like, we sort of still have him on, but it's like, well, come on. If you got to keep secret about someone being in business, then you shouldn't be in business with this person.
Why do they want them to fire Vince Russo?
Because Vince Russo is a hack.
And he's not the guy that changed the attitude. He may have played us. He might have wrote one sentence in a huge story of the WWE attitude.
You know, he came up with some good storylines, but if you want to see true Vince Russo, look at his work at WCW.
And in TNA. Mr. Wrestling 3, if you want to go back to the early days of TNA. Sports Entertainment Extreme. Black Rain. Relic. You know?
I didn't like Relic that much.
And, you know, you just have to see, you know, the guy's track record roster. So Vince Russo's a hag. I can see why Jim Cornette hates the shit out of him.
Yeah. And to this day has threatened Russo's, you know, family and himself.
Well, Jim Cornette hates everybody.
Yeah.
If you guys mention Jim Cornette one more time, I'm going to get a bacon cheeseburger right now.
Get a triple while you're at it, because that's what Cornette likes to eat.
Yeah, thoughts on any possible rebranding? Thoughts on maybe possible name changes? Because I feel that this is what Impact Wrestling needs, just a complete start over, a complete rebranding, a complete reboot.
I've been enjoying their episodes a lot more than I have been Raw this past year.
Absolutely, especially with the whole Broken Matt Hardy
They
side.
tell a story with that one.
I mean, they might just delete TNA, but at the same time, though, delete. But you got the talent already established, not just Broken Matt and Brother Nero, but EC3, Drew Galloway, DJZ, the Wolves, the new World's Heavyweight Champion Eddie Edwards, who, in my opinion, he's going to be a breakout single star in 2017. Absolutely. I don't know what they're going to do with Davey Richards. I mean, I would hate to see the Wolves split, but I also wouldn't. I don't know. Part of me isn't really sold on seeing Davey Richards versus Eddie Edwards.
And then
in a personal rivalry.
And then you have, people fresh to the company like Cody Rhodes and Aaron Rex, people that
Eli Drake.
Exactly.
As well as also the knockouts, with Gail Kim, Maria, the Miracle, Mike Bennett. And then, actually he's not a knockout, but he can act like one sometimes. But also other great talents, non-knockouts like Moose, who you got to see also Tony this past Sunday and we're very impressed with, from what I remember.
I mean, he moves like a cruiserweight.
Especially that
he shows shades of Ahmed Johnson a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit more coordinated than what Ahmed Johnson was. But Moose, he's a former NFL football player, got started at age 30 in the wrestling business. And, man, the guy just moves like a cat.
He also moves a little bit like Corbin. Baron Corbin a little bit. Combination of Baron Corbin and Ahmed Johnson.
But
But they got the right talent. They just got
they have the right
leadership.
They just need and I'm hoping that Billy Corgan is the one that can guide the company to a bright future, because apparently he's been really behind all this Broken Matt Hardy stuff. He's been supervising all this stuff with the Decay. If you guys didn't notice, Jeff Hardy when he was fighting Crazy Steve, he was actually smashing pumpkins at Crazy Steve.
Yes. Eventually, like
no pun intended.
Stated, you'd like to see that. What's the name of that song? Rat in a Cage.
Butterfly Wings.
No, like how you normally say it.
The Spinal RH. I'm still a rat in a cage match.
We'll see it an Impact Wrestling episode theme of Lockdown. It's a shame that's no longer a pay-per-view, but it's all right. But they got the right ingredients. They just need them. It's basically you got the right ingredients. You just need the right chef. And I think Billy Corgan's the right person. He's a wrestling fan through and through. He knows a lot about the business.
He worked at ECW back in the day.
Yeah. Made a few appearances on WWE television. I believe he even mentioned he was ringside for Extreme Rules 2012, where it was Cena Lesnar Part 1. He's the right person to do it. Dixie is just, you were good with funding the money, but when it comes to
Daddy's money.
Yeah, Daddy's money. But once Jeff Jarrett left, once he was no longer in charge.
When you got Hogan and Bischoff in.
Yeah, even Matt Hardy, I don't know if you saw that shoot interview, Isaac.
Yeah, he called them, rapists and, pillagers.
Basically that's all they did. I mean, they tried to turn it into the next WCW, but Kurt Angle even said that's where you're going to get the money.
Oh, it was WCW.
Yeah.
Not Golden WCW.
The positive thing was, yes, I was happy to see Lockdown live in person in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, but 7,200 in a 70,000 seat place, it's very lopsided. I mean,
it's not just that, but, it's the fact that they were bringing in a bunch of old-timers. They were doing stuff with Main Event Mafia and Legacy and
Aces and Eights.
It's just, I just really didn't care for it. And especially the worst part of it has to be that EV 2.0 crap.
Yeah. I'm sure you remember Hardcore Justice, the ECW One Night Stand wannabe pay-per-view.
I did see that. I didn't care for it.
It was voted the worst pay-per-view by the Wrestling Observer, and many say rightfully so.
But
it's right up there with SummerSlam 2016.
Or the recent Triple Mania.
You talk about last 2015? I haven't seen 2016. Yeah, 2015. Yeah. The only good thing that came out of it was the dream match with Rey Mysterio and Mysticis.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm like, there's no ... to it.
But yeah, moving on. Jay, I believe that you had something here during the closing segment?
Yeah, I mean, this Saturday night, the night before No Mercy, UFC 204, which I'll be checking out. We got some great great fights, including seeing Vitor Belfort and Jacare, as well as also the main event, Michael Bisping against the legendary Dan Henderson for the World Middleweight Championship. Henderson's done it all. I mean, Bisping is an Ultimate Fighter alumni and winner, and is the current champion, having won the title back in May at UFC 199 from Luke Rockhold. But Dan Henderson's done it all. He was an Olympian before he got into mixed martial arts. Sound a little familiar? Before getting into a big sport, being an Olympic athlete, to winning the middleweight tournament at UFC 17 back in 97. 97, I think all of us were, I was 13.
I was 11.
I was 3.
11, yeah.
You and me are a month apart.
The early stages of the UFC to Dan Henderson going into Pride, becoming the welterweight champion, unifying that with the middleweight title, knocking out the guy that nobody thought could ever be beaten, the axe murderer, Vanderlei Silva. in 2007, ending Vanderlei's 6-year reign as middleweight champion, being the final Pride middleweight and welterweight champion, being the final Strikeforce light heavyweight champion, the man who knocked out the unbeatable, another one, Fedor Emelianenko, who was unbeaten, the only big name in mixed martial arts to never enter the UFC octagon. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but stranger things have happened. But the one thing Dan Henderson's never done is become middleweight champion, never won the UFC version of the middleweight title. Mm-hmm. And to do it at 46 years of age, how many athletes can say they're fighting at an elite level at that age? And to have that as their swan song. Yes, he did beat Bisping the last time at UFC 100 when he knocked him out with what they call the H-bomb. I know people are saying, well, that was 2009. He was a little younger. But how do we know it's not going to be the end result? I mean, if I had it my way, I'd love to see Henderson win one last championship, finally beating the UFC title. And hey, not a bad way to go out for Hendo. I mean, that's my take on it. I mean, I don't know you guys' thoughts on Dan Henderson, if you guys have followed his career, or just the fact that, hey, he's at an elite level fighting at the age of 46.
It's very impressive to see, and it's very impressive. I'm very much looking forward to that fight.
To me, I think he's like the underdog coming back again. It takes, he tells a legendary story. I mean, he actually inspires people that in the 30s and 40s that they still have the drive to do what they want to do. I mean, if you think about it, you watch a Rocky film, a Rocky movie. When you watched Rocky Balboa, at age 60, he's back in the ring and he's facing a guy half his age. I mean, that takes a lot of guts. He's doing at age, and you're being at the age of between 40 to 50 years of age. That's putting your health at risk. I mean, concussions, heart problems. You're going through all the damage, the poundage. Your body can go into shock. You can die. You don't know what's going to happen, and it takes a lot of guts for a person that age to do that sport. It's a very extreme sport. Not everybody was born to do that sport. And some people that have been training for that sport for 2 years, 3 years, and going back, that takes I give a man a lot of respect.
That's why I'll be tuning in on Saturday night.
Hey, just breaking news, fellas. I want to throw this in before we finish up the show. I know you guys are talking about UFC, but apparently TNA has a new world champion, and it's no longer Bobby Lashley.
Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Edwards. That's crazy. I don't know who that is. Yeah.
YouTube online.
Eddie Edwards. But maybe he might be the last champion that TNA sees. Who knows?
They say it's not a bad selection. I mean, but we mentioned that earlier with Eddie Edwards being one of 3 men to have held the TNA and Ring of Honor title. Mm-hmm. I mean, Samoa Joe was the first. Look what happened with him. He's now the NXT champion. Or, I'm sorry, he was the former NXT champion. Yeah, forgot about that.
Shitsny Nakamura.
And now,
I thought you were going to say Shitsy.
And then Austin Aries, who's gone on to some great things in NXT, beating No Way Jose, possibly feuding with Hideo Itami soon. Aries is another guy I hope eventually gets his due in NXT, not just be another guy on the card or, hey, another big name, just something.
Or maybe he's there to push some of the younger talent.
And help develop. Say about NXT is that they need to be more of a developmental, because right now you're just bringing in all these big indie names and everything. Then it's like, where's the homegrown talent?
Yeah, who was the last homegrown NXT champion?
Biggie Langston, I believe.
Bo Dallas. I believe that was.
He needs to be a member of the Wyatt family. He's starting to act like a.
Or at least be paired with Bray.
Yeah, afterwards, who'd you have? Let's see, we had
Bo Dallas and we had Neville, who was not homegrown. Yeah.
Pac, and then you had
Sami Zayn,
El Generico, Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen,
Finn Balor,
Prince Devitt.
I think Zayn.
Samoa Joe.
Yeah,
he's never gone by anything.
And then Nakamura from New Japan.
I think Zayn, Kofi, Woods need to be in the cruiserweight division. Mm-hmm. Zayn could drop 7 pounds, just like
Finn Balor could be also.
He could be a cruiserweight also.
He was the 3-time junior heavyweight champion for New Japan Pro
Wrestling.
Wrestling.
Only 190. I mean, all these guys could do it.
I will admit, since he's been injured, my viewing of Raw has kind of dwindled.
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, I know not everyone in the ARMBAR crew is a big Finn Balor fan, which, hey, it's all good. But I think he would definitely help spark up the cruiserweight division. I mean, TJ Perkins is great, but
Kendrick is actually surprising me. I mean, I liked Kendrick back in the day when he was with Paul London, but I love the Cat His hook.
Yeah, it's such a great move.
It is a great move, and it's like an inverted headlock, and it's very rare you see a wrestler, put that move on somebody, because that move can be also very dangerous. I mean, it's almost like the crossface, but like a little bit similar to the STF. And I like the heel run that he's doing. It's very rare you see him do a heel run, especially at age 38. 37, and going back. I mean, him getting a second, third chance with the WWE.
He kind of started out as the sympathetic heel.
But now, you see him more, starting to show more of that aggression, starting to show more.
Who's also a heel in the cruiserweight? Is it Tony Nese as well, right?
Tony Nese, yeah.
Tony Nese, yeah. Tony Nese.
He was like a mini Chris Masters.
And the Bollywood boys.
He is impressive. He can do like a deadlift delayed.
He's a strong guy. Price is strong.
You see that?
I mean, you can't compare guys like Tony Nese, but I mean, he's one of the stronger cruiserweights out there, in my opinion. And he's going to go, yeah. I mean, sure. I hope to see a lot more from the cruiserweights, and I hope they stop using those purple ring ropes. I hate it. I don't like it.
They do that quickly.
They do it between segments when they're like airing commercials. I mean, I'm pretty sure it doesn't take them that long. They have like a set of guys that go in there really quick and do it. But
they have great tools.
But
this kind of makes the cruiserweight division like, oh, it's not a part of Raw.
Well, like, apparently they just tape up the ropes.
I don't know. I don't even know how that works though. Like, how do they peel it all off? Like,
they got great tools. I mean, it takes independent circuits.
It looks like duct tape.
2-3 hours just to get those things up. It's a lot of work. I mean, I tried it a couple times. I couldn't even figure it out.
So, closing thoughts, fellas, before we finish off for tonight.
Let's see.
Closing thoughts.
I mean, it could be shout outs. It could be a closing thought. Anything that you want to, I mean, anything that you're looking forward to. Maybe some no mercy predictions.
I'm looking forward to this weekend, UFC 204. Sunday night, SmackDown's No Mercy pay-per-view, and next Friday, Tony, of course, I know Mike, same thing, and hopefully too, Isaac. We all get our tickets, and eventually we see each other in San Antonio on January 29th at the Royal Rumble.
I cannot wait. And you know what? It's been about 20 years that they had the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. Right?
Well,
am I wrong?
In the Alamo Dome. 10 years ago, they were in San Antonio, but at the AT&T Center.
Okay.
The night The Undertaker won.
Boo. Not the same.
I know.
I do want to make a bold announcement. If anybody at this time has a small business, whether you guys are doing like Herbalife or you're doing AppleCare or any other small business,
the iPhone Clinic,
any little independent business you guys are doing and you guys do currently listen to ARMBAR Radio, we can plug you guys. All we need is a donation. $5 donation. $5
donation to our GoFundMe page.
Exactly.
We're trying to step up our game, trying to get better equipment, better mics. Obviously, we have really great equipment as it is right now, but anything that you can chip forward, anything they can bring forward for the Armbar crew, we'd really, really, really appreciate it, because we do this all for you. We don't get paid for this. We do it out of our passion because we want to bring the best wrestling talk to the Rio Grande Valley.
Like I've always said, give Armbar some love. Just any little bit counts, because we want to make a better show for you guys, to present the best wrestling talk, throw in some MMA here and there. Just we do this like I said, none of us are getting paid out. We have the income we receive is from our regular jobs, but this isn't a job to us. This is life to us.
Especially guys, if you guys do real estate, dealerships, we do it all. Whether it's if you guys want us to plug your business and you guys want to do like a sales pitch in any way you guys want, you just tell us how you want it done. You write it down, tell exactly how you want it, and we'll do it in between each segment. And we'd be more than happy to do an advertisement. If you guys want to do like an on-camera advertisement, more than happy to do that as well. Yeah. And plus, we also do interviews for jobs. Like if you guys, any business that wants to come over, you guys come over, we can shoot an interview before we air the show on ARMBAR, and you guys can tell us, about yourself and how you guys run the business and how you got your business started. We're more than happy to, involve anybody that's in a little business, whether you guys are doing real estate, whether you're doing weight loss supplements or anything that wants to put a big amount of exposure to the Rio Grande Valley, minimum $5 donation. That is cheap. You can't,
Even some of the,
Whataburger combos don't cost $5 anymore.
even some of your finest bar establishments. Hey, you want people to check out your establishment. If you want to help us, we'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
Just only $5 is all we ask for when it comes to an advertisement. Just to help us with our GoFundMe, to help us to help bring the best show out there with ARMBAR. I mean, the equipment we got is great, but we just want to step it up.
Okay, yes. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for listening to another weekly edition of ARMBAR. I'm Isaac Reese.
My name is Tony Mashimatuk, and thank you guys for listening to ARMBAR Radio and my other co-host. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm falling asleep here, guys. Bear with me.
Tony's had a long day. Yeah.
I know.
We
It's
all had a
okay.
long day.
We all have. And I'm Jay, the WrestlePedia, just saying, stay classy.
And Mikey?
Good night, guys. I mean, Isaac, do you want to close this out with
Yeah,
our
guys,
usual
all right,
say? We
guys.
gotta do it. I
It's
mean,
been a long time.
it's an ARMBAR classic. It's an ARMBAR
Thank
classic.
y'all for listening. Remember, guys, hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last,
But bad guys do.
Thanks for listening, everybody. See y'all next week.
Shout out to Scott Hall, NWO.
Too sweet.
Too sweet, baby.
Sweet.